officers was able to pinpoint him and give him opportunity to surrender. He failed. Instead, he drew a firearm, at which time our deputies fired on the individual. He was struck, and from my understanding, he is deceased. With that being said, I want to make sure you guys understand at this point in time, we're not releasing the name of the individual involved for sake of making sure we notify his family members and that they get the proper notification aspect. And then there's also other criminal elements that we're still looking at that may lead into further investigations of other individuals. So I'm going to try to be as cautious as I can with answering some of your questions, but give you as much as I can as well. So I'll start with some questions.
Sheriff, were you in the process of surveilling him specifically, or how did you
From an operational standpoint, sure, I can share some of that. So our investigators were in the process of what we refer to as a buy bust or drug deal exchange. The individual was involved. He decided to, again, flee, crashing into multiple vehicles, driving recklessly through the parking lot, trying to avoid apprehension, finally crashed in his vehicle, again, right outside of our public safety building, and then ran across the street armed, at which time our deputies were able to surround him and give him an opportunity to surrender, and he failed.
Was he running when he was shot, or did he turn at officers when he was shot?
When he initially was running on foot, and when they were able to pinpoint him and start ordering, he turned on the officers with the firearm, and that's when they engaged. And I also want to say something about the nature of how these officers performed. As you can imagine, I heard the gunfire from my office, and I ran out of this building to make sure that our community was fine and our deputies was fine. And getting on scene and witnessing our SWAT medics, witnessing some of our fire personnel, providing outstanding medical care to this individual, from wound packing to applying different gauze, trying to save his life, speaks to the quality of the individuals we have out here.
Was this individual performing a narcotics deal across from the sheriff's office at the time?
I didn't speak to the nature of intelligence behind it, but yeah, in very close proximity of the sheriff's office.
Do these particular units have body cams that will be used, I guess, or is that not their area kind of thing?
It depends on which officers were involved. Keep in mind, I said I ran out. Of course, I didn't have my TAC vest on, so I didn't have my body-worn camera. Many individuals inside of this building from our detectives knew and heard this, so we had dozens of officers out there. From our tactical units, they have their body-worn cameras, as well as some of the different field operating members from patrol. So yes, there is body-worn camera that was able to, document some of the accounts that I described. And then we also have surveillance cameras that we've been able to look at. I personally examined them from start to finish on this incident. And I will say again, our men who responded to this incident and dealt with this deadly threat did an outstanding job.
Was he alone?
The individual? Yes, he was.
Can you talk about whether there was a gun on him, whether he fired or anything like that?
Again, we're still investigating. And let me be clear, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, under our partnership, handles these type of investigations. We're in a support capacity, just providing intel, paperwork, statements to that extent. So I don't want to impede upon their investigation. But what I can tell you from my own observation, he most certainly had a gun. He most certainly had that gun on him and presenting it to our officers, creating an imminent threat.
Can you say where it began, like the location where it began and how far he got before he crashed?
It's only a parking lot away from the beginning of where we tried to effect an arrest without him attempting to flee. You're talking literally probably just 100 feet away from this building.
So he was going eastbound then, or westbound?
He went every direction possible to get away. And I'm just recalling looking at the video. It was north, south, east, west, whatever avenue of escape that presented at the time, he took advantage of it until he crashed his car outside of this building.
Were there any others injured in those crashes? Were they regular citizens?
Amazingly, no, and thank God. Looking at this video and with my command staff and our whole crew, we're like, we are shocked that he didn't kill someone out here in a vehicle. We're also shocked that, just running down the street and being armed, that he didn't create a great shootout where innocent civilians were being harmed. So again, I'm going to pay much compliment to my men and women out there today, because looking at the video, I don't think there's anything else we could have done better on this type of case.
How many times has he shot, can you say?
I'm not sure exactly the round count, but we can get that to you later on. I'm sure FDLE wants to keep some integrity for their investigation, so I don't want to share anything right now.
Sheriff, is this somebody you say known to the Sheriff's Department as far as career criminal? Can you tell us maybe some of the things he may have been arrested for?
Right off the top of my head, I can't give you the list of different offenses that he was involved in, but I can tell you, we know that he is a known gang associate. We know that he had violent offenses. We know that he's participated in other violent encounters throughout this community during his time here. So this was not someone that was your ideal citizen in this community. In fact, he was most certainly a criminal.
Age?
Again, if you give us a little bit of time, we're going to be sensitive to the family. As much as we want to present and give you information on that side, we still have to have some type of professional, courtesy for them.
The family that's out there basically saw his car, they spoke about us off camera and stuff. They were basically saying he just was acquitted from murder charges. I know you probably can't confirm that, but that's what they were telling us out there, if it's the same guy.
I will tell you from what I've observed in the criminal history of the individual that was involved, that there was a time where there was some levels of murder charges, but that's not within our purview to speak on. That's something that the court proceedings handle, determine whether he was not guilty or not. But again, looking at the totality of the circumstances, the individual fleeing recklessly through this community, causing all type of risk exposure to people in the parking lot, people shopping, people with their kids, and then vacating and bailing out of a car with a firearm and not surrendering. Thank God we didn't have someone innocent get hurt in this incident.
Besides BSO, you said it was a joint operation. What other agencies were involved in this?
We had a couple municipal cities supporting, and then we also had the ATF that was part of this operation.
Were they investigating him because he was connected to gangs? Is that, I
Col-
know you said narcotics, but
Collectively, so just from an experience standpoint, very rarely do we in this profession investigate someone for drugs and there's not an association of firearms, right? Where there's drugs, there's guns. And if there's guns, our goal, our focal point in this administration, which I've charged all our investigators with, when we have an opportunity to pursue federal charges, we're going to pursue federal charges. And the reason behind that is the federal government ensures that criminals do more of their time than our state system. And anyone who's carrying a firearm in this community, exposing my men and women and exposing this community to harm, I want to make sure they're off the streets for as long as possible. Anything else? Awesome. Thank you, folks.